I ran marketing departments in corporate America for 10 years and then ran a digital agency for over another 10 years. So I know the roadmap to online success, and that formula always includes producing content to share your message, from your marketing message to sales and delivery. Hi, I'm Jennifer Neal, and you're listening to the Content Toolbox. I believe the secret to finding and creating raving fans online is through you. In building relationships through stories that share who you really are, create genuine, crazy, raving fans that keep begging you to take their money. And on this podcast, we'll be talking strategies, tactics, tips, and more with myself and other industry experts. So buckle up and start your engines, because it's go time.
All right. Welcome back, you guys. Today, my guest, I am so excited to introduce you to a good friend of mine and somebody who has some really, really awesome experience and insider information. So I'd like to introduce you to my friend, Steve Werner. Welcome, Steve.
Hey, thanks, Jen. I am excited to be here and share insider information. I think it's just going to be kind of polarizing compared to what you probably have heard a lot of. So thanks for having me.
Perfect. Polarizing is awesome.
That's what happens when you have dyed hair. You're very polarizing.
Right? That's why I do it.
Sure, that's exactly it.
So, Steve, I know a little bit about your background, but for all the listeners out there, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. So I started my entrepreneurial journey when I was in restaurants. I'd worked my way up from being a waiter to running restaurants, working in Michelin-starred fine dining places, and then running fine dining for a ski resort. And I knew that I wanted to do more and be more. I'd had a business in college that I had let die. I got burned out, but I kind of had this like burning desire. And I woke up, I was 37 years old, and I was like, you know what? It's now or never. So the one thing that I knew how to do really well was public speaking, because I'd talked to thousands and thousands of guests. I'd also held a lot of live events in the restaurant area, right? We had all the banquets and all this stuff. So I was like, I'm going to do live events. I'd gone to a Tony Robbins event. I knew the power of live events. I knew that's what I wanted to do. So I saved up about $25,000, about $28,000 is what I had in the bank. And I quit my job and I moved to Las Vegas because that was the center of events. And I was like, I'm doing a live event. Went down to Treasure Island the third day that I was in town, and I signed a contract to rent the largest event space they had, which was 1,500 people, with no clue of what I was doing. To me, it made sense because I'd ran events of 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people. I was like, this isn't going to be hard. I thought you held the event, and when you held the event, people just showed up. I just thought like, oh, they saw it. So I rented the space and I got some speakers. It was around the restaurant industry because that's what I knew. And I thought, well, people come to a restaurant event. So I got some speakers. The speakers weren't the hard part. I ended up with 18 speakers. Then I paid to have a website built. Then I paid to start running ads. Then I paid for print ads. And I paid for journal ads. And I paid for all these different ads. And nothing was happening. Nobody was buying any tickets. My tickets started off at $1,000. Then I dropped them to $497. Then I dropped them to $197. Then I dropped them to $97. Then I dropped them to $47. And I finally got 2 sales.
Oh my gosh.
At this point, I had burned through $20,000. I was on the line for a 100-room hotel block. We were like 6 weeks from the event, and I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I was working 12 hours a day, but I was not doing the right things. Obviously, I was doing all the wrong things. Anyway, that event crashed and burned. I had to go in and beg them not to. I said, you guys can try to hold me to the contract, but I'm just going to file bankruptcy. If that's what you want to do, I have $2,000 to my name. So they kept the deposit, which was $5,000. They did let me out of my contract. I moved into a friend's utility room. They believed in me. So I had a friend in Las Vegas that I'd known for a couple of years, and they owned a business. And they said, like, they sat with me. Have you ever been to Treasure Island?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's the Frog Bar.
Uh-huh.
So they went with me because I was like, I have to go beg for them not to hold my contract. And she said, my friend was like, I'll go with you. Kind of, be moral support. So we went to breakfast across the street at the Bellagio, or not the Bellagio, Paris, had the best French toast ever, got my courage up, walked in, and the lady kind of knew, because they knew like no hotel rooms had been booked.
Right.
Like they knew. And she was like, look, we kind of thought you were overzealous when you came down here, but we understand. We have somebody else that would probably take that weekend. They let me out of the contract, which they did not have to do. So then I'm sitting at the bar at Frog Bar, and my friend is like, what are you going to do? And I was like, I don't know. At this point, I think I had about $2,000 or $3,000 cash, and I had a credit card with $5,000 on it that I hadn't touched. And I was like, I don't know. I mean, I know I can always go get a job bartending, waiting tables. I can definitely go back into restaurant management. I had several offers from headhunters, but I was like, I really don't want to do that. And like, I'm a little bit known for being stubborn. And I was just like, I don't want to do that. Like, I know that I can do this. And if anything, I mean, maybe you've had this experience when you try something and it doesn't work quite right. That's when that's just like where I get started.
Yeah. I'm like, I want to do it again.
Well, I'm like, I saw the Michael Jordan documentary, The Last Dance, which have you seen that?
I have not seen that. No.
I don't like sports. Totally worth watching, because it's all about the psychology of what he does. And like it made so much sense to me, because what he would do is he would pick an enemy that wasn't a real enemy, but build a backstory and be like, I failed at this. And that's where he was like, that's when the pressure starts. And that's when I start getting better. So every time he had something he wanted to learn in his career, he would set up something that pushed on him. So that's kind of what happened here. I was just like sitting at the bar and I was fuming. I was like, I know I can do this. Like, I mean, fueled by a couple rounds of cocktails as well. My friend was like, look, you can stay in my utility room for as long as you want. It was like an 8x10 room that was off the laundry room. It wasn't a bedroom. It didn't have a closet. She was like, you can stay in there as long as you want. Like, I'm not worried about rent. You can cook us some food sometimes. Like, but if you're willing to work on it, I think you can do it. And I was like, cool. So I moved in, literally like a bed, an end table, and some crap. Like, I had stuff in storage that was in Vail, and I wasn't going to mess with that. So I'm sitting there and I started going to the library, because I was like, I'm not going to buy hundreds of books off Amazon. I'm going to go to the library. I'm going to read what I can. And I found a Dan Kennedy course. If you guys don't know who Dan Kennedy is, you should Google him. He was one of the old school direct marketers, 70s, 80s, 90s. He's one of the guys that started all of it. All the greats, Joe Polish, Frank Kern, Russell Brunson,
Yep.
Eben Pagan, everybody came from this guy.
Yep.
I didn't know this at the time at all. I was lucky enough that somebody had donated a course, which was like a $2,000 audio cassette tape course with a workbook. And I was like, I don't know. It was one of like 80 things that I checked out of the library. And my car at the time actually had a cassette player in it. And I was like, I put one in, and I think I was driving. I was driving around Vegas, and I remember like listening to it, and like, I don't know, it was like 20 minutes, and it was so good. And I was just like, what the crap? So I went to a thrift store and actually bought a like cassette player boombox radio thing.
80s style, carrying around on your shoulder.
Yeah, just rocking it on my shoulder. No, it like, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to listen to a cassette tape. I'm not just going to drive around Las Vegas. But I ended up going through this whole thing, and it came with a workbook. And I literally I went through the whole thing, I think, in 2 or 3 days. Like, I just sat in my room taking notes, and because it was that good. And I was like, I'm going to try what he said to do. So I went to an off-strip hotel that allowed me to reserve a room for 2 days for $1,000. They didn't require a room block. They didn't require food and beverage, so I could do that. I put that on my credit card. And then I literally did what this thing told me to do. And I filled the room with 100 dentists. And I made like $8,000. It took me 4 months from the time I moved in until I held that event. from there, I went on a tear of holding live events. I went and I joined Dan Kennedy's Inner Circle, which then led me to like Frank Kern and all these other people. But I really stuck to live events. Over 4 years, I held more than 40 live events. I spoke on numerous stages. I sold from stage. I just really dived into that piece because it's very connecting. Like if you're in front of a room, for the first, I don't know, probably 6 events, I didn't speak. I emceed it.
Oh, okay.
Welcome speakers, because I didn't know what to say.
Right.
Dan Kennedy told me I was an idiot. Like finally get to a Dan Kennedy event. And I paid extra because you could sit at a round table with him.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting at the round table and I tell my story. At this point, I think I'd held 2 or 3 events. And I was like, I've made like $25,000. I'm blah, blah, blah. Like this is going great. And he just like looked at me and I just remember him. If you know him, he's a grumpy old man.
Oh yeah.
And he's just like, you're an idiot. And I was like, what? And he's like, you're being stupid. And he's like, you're missing out on so much. And I was like, what am I missing out on? He's like, you need to be speaking and you need to be selling them something. I was like, what am I going to sell to dentists? Because at this point I'd only held events for dentists. And he's like, you need to sell them something. And I was like, I don't have anything to sell them. I'm not a dentist. Like, I'm just glad they come to my event. And he is like, sell them. He was like, I have products over there. He's like, pick one. They all have how to sell. He's like, I'll give you the sales speech. You've heard me sell it. Just sell that from the front of the room. I'll give you half of it. So that was like the first JV that I had ever really heard of that I was like, oh, this is how that works.
Your very first JV is with Dan Kennedy.
Well, kind of. I mean, he didn't do anything he made me buy the program.
That's fun. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's like, it was magnetic marketing. He was like, sell magnetic marketing. It works. All of them love it. It was originally designed for dentists. And I was like, well, how do I was like, well, he could see like the wheels weren't turning. He was like, because he's like, do you even have that? And I was like, no. And he's like, well, you have to buy it. So, $2,000 later, I'm the proud owner of, again, cassette tapes with a USB drive. But I sold magnetic marketing for, I think 2 events. And then I started doing, I realized 1, that I could branch outside of dentists. 2, what they want is marketing. Everybody wants leads. Everybody wants clients. So if I could just talk about that a little bit and then just sell them. So at first I sold them VIP days with me. And then I started doing some Facebook marketing. So I started selling them, setting up their Facebook marketing, setting up Infusionsoft. I just pretty much looked at what their pain points were, which is everything for a dentist or chiropractor.
So yeah.
Oh my God. Like,
yeah.
So the moral of this entire story, there are 3. The first one is the thing that you think you sell is not what you sell. Like the thing. So for dentists, it's being a dentist, right? For a chiropractor, it's being a chiropractor. At the beginning of my story, I thought it was holding a live event. Nobody just wants to come to a live event. They want the outcome of that live event.
Yeah.
They want the outcome of going to a dentist. They want a better smile. If they're going to a chiropractor, they want to feel better about their back, right? They want the outcome. The second thing is, as the chiropractor, as the dentist, as me holding the live event, my skill set is not valuable. What is valuable is marketing the event. That is the thing that builds a business, marketing and sales. If you don't have marketing and sales, it doesn't matter how great I am at building an event. I was awesome at building events. I was great at getting speakers. I knew how to lay out the event. I knew how to plan the food. I knew all the little things, but that's not where the money is. The money is in the sales and the marketing. As a dentist, same thing. You can be the best dentist. If you can't sell your product, nobody cares. Nobody cares how many letters are behind your name, where you went to school, none of that crap. What they care about is if you can fix their problem. And the only way you can talk about that is when you talk about pain points and you market and do sales. And the third thing out of this whole story is that live events, nobody knew who I was. I wasn't big on Facebook. I wasn't running tons of Facebook ads. I wasn't doing any of that stuff. And I still had a business that did several $100,000 a year that I loved. And it got me in personal connection with people. Now, that's not for everyone. Some people want to run Facebook ads. They want to have a funnel. They never want to talk to anybody. I sold high ticket services to less than 50 customers a year, probably half that, probably 25 to 30 customers a year. I sold a high ticket service that I loved doing. I got to speak in front of people. I got to shake their hands. They were good clients. I got to build relationships. And that is so opposite of everything we hear in the digital marketing space of Build a funnel, put 1,000 people through it, run some Facebook ads. You never have to deal with anything. Put out shit because nobody cares. They're not going to go through your course anyway.
Yeah.
So,
and enter the polarizing.
well, so then we get to COVID, right?
Yeah.
Well, the short version. So I was running a Facebook ads agency. I was doing events, selling people into Facebook ads, into Infusionsoft, into funnel building, into all of these things for their businesses. A lot of brick and mortar businesses. From there, 2017, we were having a discussion, and I don't like building Facebook ads. I don't really like being on Facebook. I like seeing my friends' stuff about their vacations. I like having conversations. I hate all the marketing crap that is on there. If you have an optimized profile, get the F out of here. Like, that shit's for the birds. It worked in the beginning because it was a gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
Now everybody in the world has, I help blank get blank outcome, buy my crap, opt into my shitty my lead magnet. Like, I'm so annoyed by that. And if I see one more like screenshot of a fake Stripe account where people are like, look, I did $40,000 in sales yesterday. Like, get that crap off my screen. You just used Photoshop really well. Anyway, I'll digress from that. I was sick of running Facebook ads because the landscape was definitely getting more competitive. Also, it is really hard to get what you need from dentists and chiropractors. Sure, they think it's just like, oh, you're just going to turn on ads and it's going to make money. There are a lot of steps that go into building a good funnel, into getting a good ad running. They have to shoot videos. They have to then have somebody that can answer the phone. The straw that broke the camel's back in that was I got a dentist 170 qualified leads that had filled out a survey and requested a call. Out of 170, they only had time to call 5 people back, and they wondered why their ads weren't working. To which point I sit down and show them the spreadsheet, and they just say, well, that's not possible. I said, is it possible that maybe this is what you run into in a dental chiropractic office? This is the behind the scenes. You have an office manager that is responsible for everything in the office, as well as, oh, here, call back 100 leads.
Yeah.
And they can't do it. They can't fulfill on it. So it falls apart. So anyway, on this cruise, we had a discussion late at like 2 a.m. about, well, if you don't like running ads, maybe you shouldn't run ads. Maybe you shouldn't build ads. And I thought, well, what do I do? And they're like, you know how many people would probably love to know how to hold live events or would love your help with them? So I sent out an email. The next day, I fired all my clients. I found them new homes. And then I went on and sent out an email to 20, I think it was 21 or 22 people who had expressed some kind of interest in holding a live event. From that, I got 3 people. I helped them build their live event, all the marketing to fill it. I helped them build the coaching program, and then I helped them practice their sales pitch over and over and over so that the whole event was laid out in a way that felt good and comfortable to them. It wasn't high pressure selling. And out of those 3 events, I think we did over $500,000 in sales with most of the rooms were like 40 to 50 people.
That's incredible.
And then just kind of went on from there. Last year, year before COVID, I worked with 5 clients, and all of them were high ticket clients. My fee is $25K plus 10% of sales, and we crushed it. We did over $4 million from those 5 clients, which is great. So that was great. And then COVID hit, and we had to pivot a little bit. But
yeah, just a little. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is that I've spoke out very much about, I don't think virtual events will never be the same as an online event. Mm-hmm. I know that some people had to do them. I'm not against it, but I wasn't going to do one, nor was I going to recommend that my clients do one. Instead, I said, you can run a small group mastermind. You can have 4 or 5 people on there, do stuff like that. We worked on several things like that. For my own business, though, I had to refund a lot of money. Because we had events booked for this entire year that I wasn't going to charge clients for. And then I had to get creative. There's a lot that can be done with content. There's a lot that can be done with video. There's a lot that can be done without using Facebook. I still don't like Facebook. I post on there a little bit, but I'm not trying to drive a whole bunch of business through it. I use my email list. I use YouTube. I use Messenger. Like, I talk to people. If you talk to somebody, oh my goodness, I'm going to talk to a client. Like, pick up your phone. call some people, have some conversations. I try to do 2 or 3 Zoom calls a day with people who would either be clients or be prospective clients or could put me in front of prospective clients. If you do that, suddenly you're in front of them. And I know everyone's like, oh, but I just want to run a funnel. Well, how successful has that been for you? Like, one of my light bulb moments in this whole journey was Russell Brunson spoke for Mixergy for the podcast for them at Dry Bar, and he put a list of all the funnels he's ever built on a screen. There were 2,700 funnels.
Yep.
He said less than 10% broke even and less than 5% made a profit, like a substantial profit. If you think about that, I mean, here we all are. He's a great salesman, and I love Russell to death, but like 1 out of 10 funnels might break even. 1 out of 20, you might make a little bit of money. So think about that. Like, you've got to design an offer. You've got to really get clear on who your people are. It is much easier, in my opinion, to get some people on the phone, listen to what their pain points are, and say, hey, I think I can probably solve that for you. And the way that I do that is by putting out little pieces of information all over the internet. Yes, this is like a lead magnet. Or in my email list, I'll just say, hey, this is something that I learned today, or this is something I used in my live events business, or this is something I've done with a client to help them make money. If you want to learn more, let me know. If somebody responds to the email, I say, hey, let's jump on a Zoom call. I'm happy to walk you through it. Then at the end of the Zoom call, like, would I like a customer out of the Zoom call? For sure. But I'm just as happy to help somebody, because I've had more people come back to me and say, I mean, this happened. I had 2 people yesterday that I had helped in a free session that I was just happy to share some information with them. They both referred people to me who will pay.
Yeah.
Right. They said, we're not quite ready for that right now, but I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Because there's so many people out there that want to drop 1-page PDF and then never talk to people, never provide any support, or that worse, they want to sell them a $2,000 course and not deliver anything. So the ways that I use content, because this is the content toolkit after all.
Yes, yes.
Do Facebook Lives. If you're going to do something on Facebook, do a Facebook Live and solve somebody's problem. Send out an email that actually, my email open rate's over 30% for a 4,000 person list, because I give value. If you look at the emails, this is the way that you can tell if you're providing value. If your email open rates are going up, you don't have to. The other thing that I learned about email is you don't have to write a 500-word email. Some of my emails are 100 words. Hey, check out this YouTube video that shows you how to do X, Y, Z. I know how to do this. I know some secrets that are behind the scenes, but this is a great place to get started.
Yeah.
That's
Is that your video, or are you repurposing that somebody else's?
Both.
Yeah.
I send out my own videos, but I also, if it's a good video that shows something, and they're not all marketing videos either. Like, I've pointed people to, I use a lot of stories. Stories are number one, the best marketing. I have a free course on how to tell great stories. Jen might give it to you. If not,
completely agree. Yeah.
If not, you can go to my website, whatever. That's not what this is about. But I'll pull the story out of a movie. If you look on YouTube, you can usually find the story. Somebody's already broken it out into a clip. And you can say, hey, if you're having a hard time grasping XYZ, check this out. Here's how it applies. Most those emails get almost higher open rate. I think most of them do get a higher open rate than my training video stuff, because people like to be entertained. This is what we tell people when they're speaking from stage. If you're teaching, you get to teach for 2 to 3 minutes before people's eyes get heavy and they start to doze off, because your brain just can't take it.
Yep.
No matter how great the information is, you can only teach for 2 to 3 minutes. Everything else has to be a story or a simile or a takeaway or something emotional. I mean, it's Tony Robbins. Jen and I were lucky enough to go to a Tony Robbins event together.
Yep.
He gets you out of your chair. Tattoo right there.
Yep.
I mean, Tony Robbins gets you out of your chair every 3 to 5 minutes.
Yep.
He does a state break because he knows that you have to pay attention. So, like, it doesn't matter. This goes back to the very opening story. It doesn't matter how great you are at what you do. It doesn't matter how much you want to teach that. You cannot just do a 45-minute teaching video. Doesn't work. Will not work, will not get you views. Instead, entertain people. Entertain people with tidbits of information that's like a breadcrumb trail. Eventually, they will get to the point where they're like, oh my God, I need the actual how-to. Then you get about 10 minutes. That's it. If you look at all the people who teach really, really well and all the stuff that you have learned, I will almost guarantee you learn it in under 10-minute chunks. So email list. Send them stuff that makes them laugh. I tell jokes once in a while. I'm just like, hey, I hope you're having a great day. Check out this joke. And you tell a good joke. If you make people laugh, they will remember you. They will appreciate it. Send them a good quote. A quote is a really good thing. So you state the quote, then you state how that quote applied to something directly in your life.
And tell a story about it.
Yeah, that's it. Like, quote, how it applied to my life, short story, wish them a great day. That's a 100-word email. You can write it in 10 minutes. It will get more opens than your 1,000-word essay on how to do whatever you think you're good at. Like,
yeah.
It definitely.
All right. So how often do you email your list? Because I know that's a pretty common question.
Google Analytics will tell you that you should be emailing at least 4 times a week, at least. I try to do, I would say 5 to 7. There was a while that I did every day. Sometimes that's a little bit much, but I would say a minimum of 4. And the way that I do it, so I can show you because I'm super old school. So this is my to-do list. I've already done it for today. I don't know where it is, but there's a big Post-it note that says send an email. And it goes on top of my to-do list. So I can't see anything else on my to-do list until I send an email.
Awesome.
And then it just gets a tick.
Yeah.
And I know if I've sent 4 for the week. So usually it's every other day. I will tell you all a trick, depending on what email broadcast service you use. I use ConvertKit. You can you can resend to unopens.
Mm-hmm.
So what you do is you don't just resend the same email. You look at the unopens, you change the subject line, and go in and just change a few things in the email. Because if Google sees that it's the exact same email, Gmail is the #1 email service. If Gmail sees that you're sending the exact same email, they're going to actually up your spam rating, and you're going to have more emails end up in spam. But if you change it just a little bit, you need to change it about 10%. So just go in and rewrite 2 of the sentences. If your email is 100 words, you need to change 20 words. You can do that. Change the subject line and resend it to unopens. If you do that, I tend to do that every single email I do. That will get you easily up to your email limit.
Awesome.
So I'm still a big believer in email. If you're listening to this and you're like, I don't like emailing, I hate spam, blah, blah, blah. The reason that people hate, that's in your mind. If you're giving them value, you don't have to sell in every email. You can sell in the footer. I mean, my footer has all my stuff. They can buy something there. Sometimes I will. I would say once a week, I probably send out something that says, hey, if you want to buy XYZ, here it is. This is why you should buy it. I don't offer it on sale. I usually don't even offer a bonus. I just tell a story about somebody who either had success with it or how they could use it in their business, or I reiterate the guarantee. I talk about a quote, something that drives to it, right? But you don't have to sell in every email. Just provide value. Make it fun for them. If people like opening your emails, think about the email that you get from your friend that's funny, right? It has a funny meme in it. Or you're going to open it. And then you're at the top of that person's mind. That's what content is all about, building the know, like, trust factor.
Awesome. I know, Stephen, you and I are so aligned on so much of this. With using stories and attracting people and not being spammy by virtue of actually providing value. I love it. So let's tactical nitty gritty. You kind of bounced around a little bit here. Mm-hmm. Let's get right into it. We talked about your email, how often you're emailing. Mm-hmm. What other ways? I know you mentioned YouTube. Mm-hmm. So let's just kind of go through the other ways that you're communicating with people. And then let's talk about why you hate Facebook.
Sure. So I'm going to talk about 3 things. One, YouTube is a long-term play. If you can't commit to do YouTube, don't try. Like, this is how I look at content, right? Because we've all seen the people who are everywhere. You can't be everywhere. even if you spend money on a team, it's probably going to really stress you out unless you know how to produce content. Start with what I tell all of my clients that come to me. They're like, oh my God, bull. I'm like, you have to email. Email is not like, you have to do that. And then pick one other place. If that's Facebook, that's fine. If that's YouTube, that's fine. You might be able to do 3. It took me a long time to get to do 3. Pick email and one other. And you can repurpose content. You should be repurposing content. So there are 5 core stories that every business needs. Those 5 stories can be repurposed over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. So anyone who argues with me on that, I tell, like, think about your favorite book. Have you read it more than once? Think about your favorite movie or your favorite television show that you put on in the background because it's comforting, because you like it. If you're telling a great story, especially that paints a picture that gets the person listening excited about their future, which most digital marketers should be doing. If that's the story that you're telling, people will love to hear it. How many times have we heard the potato gun story, right? Like over and over and over. And you can tell a long version, you can tell a short version, you can pull a highlight out of it and say how that applies to something you learn now. So those 5 core stories get used over and over and over. I like YouTube. I'm really good on video. I think that it is one of the best ways to build relationship with people. So I'm willing to play the long-term game there. I did a lot of Facebook Lives. I did over 120 days straight of Facebook Lives. I still do Facebook Lives. Great way to get some content out. The challenge with Facebook Lives is people are going to see it in their feed for 1 to 5 days, and then it's going to be gone. Yeah, you can download it and you can repurpose it. But if you download it and you put that on YouTube, you're not going to get much reach because it's a different kind of video. So,
okay, quick question.
Yeah.
Facebook Lives, do you go live on your profile or on your business page?
So when I did the 120 days, I did it on my personal page. I now do them. When I do them, they're different things. So my business page, I do business training type stuff. Right? If I'm going to do a walkthrough, if I'm going to do a framework, if I'm going to tell a story. On my personal page, I will do more of a personal behind the scenes. I might talk about a little bit of business. I hate all the crap. Like your personal page, yes, you can market through it. I'm going to block you. Everybody else is going to block you. You're like the annoying realtor at a cocktail party that just walks around saying, here, buy my home. Here, let me sell your house. Blah, blah, blah. Nobody gives 2 craps.
Yeah.
Like, tell a story that's interesting. So I'll talk about, the ones that have gotten the most views for me lately, I live in Airbnbs. I moved into this Airbnb last month. I did a walkthrough video of it. I think it got like 500 or 600 views. And I talk about, like, this is a studio. You can't see all of it right now, but I've got whiteboards over here. I've got lighting up here. I've got like camera stuff all over the place. So people saw that when I did the walkthrough and I talked about it for like 30 seconds, but that wasn't the point of the video. Now, some people reached out because of that. That's a much better way to do it.
Right. It's that attraction thing instead. Yeah, exactly.
If you're going to go live on your personal profile, make it interesting. Tell a story. Don't teach. If you try to teach, or if you, I don't know, the people that are like, oh my God, I just broke a sales record, da 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 da, like, you're going to get it. Will it work? Sure. Is it going to feel good? No. You're going to get all the people that are just jumping on the bandwagon, that you're going to get a lot of broke people. You're going to get a lot of people that aren't necessarily your ideal customers. You're not really building a relationship. Instead, you're being a flash in the pan. So you can use StreamYard, you can use some tools, and you could go live all over the place too. But I honestly think there's a time and a place for both, and you can do both.
Agreed. And there is a way to repurpose content. I mean, that's like, we have that in the course that I offer as well. But it's like, if you repurpose just nothing but hitting people over the head with sales messaging and and all those things, like, nobody wants that. I don't care how much you're repurposing it. Could make it interesting.
Well, so if you're listening to this and you still can't wrap your head around it, 3% of any given marketplace is in enough pain to buy what you are selling right now. If you're trying to lose weight, right? If you're selling a weight loss product, there's 3% of the market out there that is just like fed up, and they're just like, okay, I have to do it today. they're going to buy your shit. The other 97% knows that they probably need to lose weight. They might even have some interest in it, but they're not going to buy right now. So how do you remain in the top of mind? If you are just putting out sales message and offer, and beating people over the head, you're going to get blocked. You're going to get shut down. You're not going to have reach. But if instead you tell some cool stories, maybe you talk about things that you struggle with. Maybe you share your home gym once in a while. Maybe you just share your kids and your life so that people know they can trust you and you're not a scam artist. Then on that day when they wake up and they're one of that 3%, they'll buy from you. Mm-hmm. It's a long-term game. It's not a short-term flash in the pan, I'm going to get rich overnight thing. But there is no overnight success. I mean, that's the other secret that nobody really wants to talk about, but is the truth. There's no such thing. If you're not putting in time and effort, you're not going to get there. Yep. Especially in today's world, because the marketplace is getting louder and louder, more and more noise. If you are trying to be an overnight success, or if you have the expectation that you're going to start and you're going to be doing 10K months right out of the box, you're going to burn yourself out. It's the same way, going back to health and fitness, it's the same way that people are like, I'm going to lose all the weight. I'm going to run a marathon. It's going to be awesome. They go to the gym for 5 hours the first day. They're super sore the second day, so they don't go. The third day, they might get back in for like an hour, but then they're like, oh man, I'm still sore. This doesn't feel great. I'm busy. And within a couple of days, they've quit. And then they're beating themselves up, and then that doesn't work. And it works. You just got to be consistent. You have to stay at it, and you have to do the work. There's no way to not do the work. It's not the popular thing to say, but it is 100% the right thing to say.
Mm-hmm. It is. I totally agree. All right. So we had a Facebook rant. Did we cover all of the Facebook rant?
I mean, pretty much. If you're going to be on Facebook, give stuff that's valuable. And by that term, valuable, that doesn't mean a training. That doesn't mean a sales message. It means talk about something that's interesting, which is probably not your sales bullshit. Like, just flat, like, honesty. So if you're looking on ways to tell a story, this is something that people are like, well, I'm telling stories. I'm like, no, you're not. A story has a specific moment in time. So not once upon a time, I was blah, blah, blah. When I was telling you the Dan Kennedy story, right, there were specific moments. I could have done a better job describing it. What the bar looked like. What did it feel like to sit there? What was I drinking? You want specific things in there. So if you're telling a good story, it should have drama, lots of drama. The more drama you have, the more people will pay attention. You should start off in pain, struggle. Then you have the light bulb, which is a very small point. That's like the tipping point of the story. So the pain for me, I worked in restaurants. I knew I had to do more. I had to be more. I wanted to go out and hold live events. I tried to hold a live event. Drama. Pain. Spend money. Don't get results. Pain. The solution, Dan Kennedy. Right? Then what was it like after that? So it's about 50% of pain, 50 to 60% is your pain, drama leading up. 10% is your light bulb moment. And then about 30% is the exciting tomorrow. What is going on now? Like, how did that result in success? That's how you tell a story. It should have specific moments, and it should have a lot of descriptions of how think about how you feel, right? Are your palms sweaty? Was it hard to get up in the morning? Was it hard to sit down at the bar? Was I crying during a discussion? How did it feel? Like, talk about those things. That's how you tell a good story. And if you know how to tell a good story, you can turn anything into a good story. Ways that you can learn this, look at YouTube videos that get a lot of views that are telling stories about nonsensical stuff. Today I went to the circus. There was one guy who his whole channel was about cereal that he was eating in the morning. He's got millions of views. And his whole thing is about finding the perfect bowl, finding the right milk, seriously. But he knows how to build drama and make it interesting to watch. If you can do that with your story, you can write an email about absolute nonsense, and people will be entertained, and they will like you, and they will buy. The sale of the product comes when you've earned their trust and they know what you do. You don't have to beat them over the head with that. So I guess I'll leave content with that.
And mic drop, we're done.
I don't know if there's anything else I can touch on in there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's great. I love getting into, the tactical of like, how are you actually communicating and like, what are you doing? And essentially you're kind of dribbling awesome, valuable information on a few channels, selective, and driving them back to essentially a phone call. I mean, you're running a phone call funnel through Zoom, but that's basically it.
You don't need, as much as I love ClickFunnels, you don't need a funnel.
No.
You like literally put out content. If somebody's interested in it, they respond to an email or they hit you up through Messenger or they drop like some comment somewhere. You talk to them a little bit and you say, hey, if you want more information, let's jump on a Zoom call. Here's my scheduler. And then you end up sitting here talking to them on Zoom. This is the same thing that I did live events. Go to meetups all the time. Go out to meetups. Don't push on people, right? How to win friends and influence people. Hey, what do you do? Do you enjoy it? Tell me more about that. I'd love to hear more. Yeah. Eventually, that person's going to ask you, what do you do? And then, if I was at a live event, I would say, I help businesses make money. I'm a business consultant. Or if I'm at somewhere that people might want to hold live events, I help people hold live events. Oh, I'd love to hear more about that. Yeah, no problem. I can answer any questions. Now's not really the time we can go really deep on it, though, but I'd be happy to grab a cup of coffee with you sometime.
Yep.
Right now you can't do that because of COVID, but those times will come back and that never goes out of style. The way to be interesting is to be interested.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I think that's a Dan Kennedy thing too, isn't it?
Well, originally it's from How to Win Friends and Influence People. But
yeah. Okay. Yep. God, all the links we're going to have to include in here. So awesome. All right. So I usually like to ask about biggest mistakes that you have made or seen people made. I feel like we've probably already covered a lot of those, but is there anything?
So, if you're doing video, don't teach for more than a minute or two of the video. The rest of it all needs to be set up, jokes, stories, anything but teaching. The brain just can't handle it.
Yeah.
But don't push your message on everybody. It's not about what you do. It's about the result that you get for people. Those are all mistakes learned directly from what I did. First time I tried to sell on stage, I listed all the features and benefits. I was like, Dan Kennedy has sold more than $200 million from stage, probably like $500 million now. But instead I was like, no, this magnetic marketing thing, I'm going to list all the features and benefits. And I lost people 3 minutes in. People these are dentists. They were in another world. They're taking phone calls. They're doing their thing. And I was like, how did this happen? And didn't get very many sales because people weren't paying attention. But when I started telling stories, which is what Dan teaches, it changed very quickly. I'm trying to think of other really big mistakes that I've made that would be specific to content. I made a ton of mistakes. We've all made a lot of mistakes. The thing is that I guess what I'll leave with is don't be scared of making mistakes. Everybody thinks that you're in the middle and failure's here and success is here. And it's not like that. It's you're here, failure is here, and success is over here. And you have to go through failure to get to success. There are very few people who ever, and honestly, I don't think nobody gets to success without at least having some failure. You might get better at avoiding failure, but if you're fighting to avoid failure, chances are you're not moving forward. So start putting out content. Gary Vee has a couple videos. They're all titled around stop caring, start posting. And he's just put out content, because the more content you put out, if you want to put out content on Facebook, put out content on Facebook. It does not have to be sales content. Start with your stories. If you want the 5 core stories that you need, that's what my course is. Jen will put a link down below.
Actually, we'll probably talk Steve into including it in the content toolbox resource area. So
there you go. Cool. Practice your 5 core stories, but just start putting out content. Stop caring about whether or not people the right people will care, and
Yeah.
you will start having conversations, and you will start selling things because people know, like, and trust you. That's what content is all about. And if you want to use Facebook, Facebook is free. I'm not saying don't use it. I'm just saying actually give things that are valuable instead of just adding to the trash heap that is the landfill that Facebook is becoming. Like, give something that makes people smile. Give something that makes people happy. And that doesn't mean a quote card from Instagram. That means tell a story about your life. Share something about your kids. Share something about your pets. Pets are the easiest thing. If you have pets, Jen, where was your cat today?
At the vet.
Why?
Had to go in and get an ultrasound. Very expensive ultrasound.
That is a story that will gain traction on Facebook because people care about pets.
Yep.
Right? You're not going to talk about marketing at all in there, or you might mention it in the way that I had to rush back because I had to get on a podcast.
Right.
That might make people interested, but the story isn't about the podcast. It isn't about marketing, but people still know what you do.
Yeah. Yep. So true.
There you go.
Out of curiosity, just real quick, do you actually, how do you keep track of your different stories, or do you keep like a story bank?
So I did keep a story bank for a long time. I actually had it on flashcards. And I would practice. So Dan Kennedy teaches you to write your stories and always have them. He was like, build a flashcard deck, go through the flashcard deck every day for 5 minutes when you're on the toilet, when you're doing something, like when you're in line at a grocery store, whatever. Just go through the flashcards. So I did that when I first got started. I had a lot of stories that I went through. Now I do not. I should. What I have, so the 5 core stories that I teach, I have those down. If I want to change one of those, because there are times that those stories will change a little bit. I mean, when COVID happened and I had to tweak, I went from selling live events as my main thing to selling growth business consulting. Those are different stories. It's a different story set. So I actually wrote them out. I wrote them out as emails. And then I told them to people. Like, I told them to people on Zoom. I told them to people through Facebook Live. So I practiced them. I've practiced them enough that I knew what they were. They are on my board, like on my whiteboard. I just have what they are, the Cliff Notes version. So that if I ever am like, how does that go? Which really doesn't happen. They're there.
Yeah.
I do recommend having a story bank. And I recommend practicing. Like, if you think you know how to tell stories, but you're not getting sales, you don't know how to tell stories. That would be what I would say. It's not another tactic. You don't need another funnel. You don't need Facebook ads. You just need to know how to tell a story.
Yep. Oh, awesome. Love it. Love it. Okay. Where can people find you, follow you, get more information to get on your email list? Where can they go?
Sure. So I'll give you a couple resources. The 5-step method that we're talking about, the 5 stories that you need. You can go to freeprosperityworkbook.com. There's a free workbook. It's about 15 pages that will take you through the 5 stories and how to use them. If you go to myt.how, really easy to remember. That's monetize your tribe, myt.how. That will actually forward you to my personal website. Personal website is stephenphilipwarner.com. Everything is listed on there, as well as blog articles that I'm putting out. So blogging is something that I just started. I think I have about 15 of them up there right now. But we're basically taking the emails that do really well, and I'm reworking them, adding in YouTube links, video training, stuff like that.
Super important.
Yep. So you can go there and you can learn all about me. It has all my free resources. I have 5 different free resources that are all free, all listed on there for you.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Okay. I'm going to leave with this one final question here. Mm-hmm. What is one of the most surprising things that has happened to you personally as a result of starting a business?
Wow. Moving to Puerto Rico comes to mind. Although that's like super weird. I moved to Puerto Rico last year.
Yeah.
Which was awesome. Really, really cool people, really cool country, part of the US, really cool state. I don't know what I should call that. I don't think I would have gotten there if I hadn't started a business. Living out in Airbnbs. I mean, I left Vail and just started living on the road, which has been awesome. Met a ton of really cool people, been involved in several different side projects, like so many different things from that has been awesome. I think those are probably a good.
Pretty surprising. Yeah. I love it because when you look back, it's like, oh, wow, I never thought I would be here, or like that would have happened.
Yeah. Like, I've gotten to travel the world and hang out with really cool people that I like. It's really interesting explaining what I do to people who work a 9-to-5 job because they're all like, what do you mean you enjoy what you do? Like, why? Like, don't you just want to go out and like shut it off and have a beer? I'm like, no, fuck no. Sorry. That's not what I want to do. I want to sit down and talk about business stuff. I want to talk about more growth stuff. I want to read books. I want to watch videos. I want to hang out with people who are like that. And what's really interesting is, those people eventually just fall out of your life because they don't want to hear you talk about business, and you don't want to be around them because you don't want to hear them complain about their crappy work.
Yep.
It's funny how that happens. So, I've gotten to hang out with people that I like hanging out with, doing things that I like to do. That's not to say that it's easy. I think people always are going to struggle regardless of how successful you are. Maybe it's that thing that I was talking about with Michael Jordan. I'm always looking for like ways that I can improve, ways that I can push on myself harder, ways that I can overcome obstacles. And if there's no obstacles, I tend to look for an obstacle to work on, right? I think a lot of us do that. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it keeps me moving.
Awesome. Well, any parting words of advice or recommendations or anything that you would like to leave anybody with?
Tell stories.
Yep.
That's it.
Get out there and tell stories. Talk to people.
Talk to people. Talk to people. They're not going to bite you. If people are running away from you, if you feel like you're the realtor at the party, you're the realtor at the party. Instead, ask 3 simple questions. What do you do? What do you like about it? Tell me more about that. How'd you get into that? When I met Jen started talking to me about Formula One. And I was like, I don't know. Did people in the US actually follow Formula One? Do we even have a Formula One racetrack here? She started talking to me about it. Then that led to the classic cars that she has, which then led to love of driving, which led to cars because I like cars. Lots of conversations came out of that just by being interested in somebody. If you walk up to somebody and you immediately try to tell them what you do, you're doing it wrong. Instead, it's always, what do you do? Why do you like that? What's interesting about that? How'd you get into that? Tell me more. And be interested.
Yep.
That's it.
Awesome. I love it. It's really not that hard.
It's not.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on, Steve. And you guys will make sure that all the links are posted in here. You can get some more information from Steve, get on his awesome email list. And I appreciate all of your time. Awesome having you on here. Thanks.
No problem. My pleasure.